The escape pod crashed into the rocky ground of Drakmor with a loud bang. Smoke rose from its broken metal shell as strange purple flames danced around the wreckage. The pod had traveled far across the dark space between stars, carrying its precious cargo away from a dying human colony. Hrothgor the Ancient heard the crash from his mountain cave. The massive dragon lifted his great head and sniffed the air. His golden eyes gleamed in the darkness as he caught an unfamiliar scent. Something had fallen from the sky, something that did not belong on his world. The old dragon stretched his powerful wings and flew toward the crash site. His scales shimmered like dark emeralds in the pale light of Drakmor's twin moons. Hrothgor had lived for over 1,000 years and had seen many things fall from space. Usually they brought trouble. When he reached the smoking pod, Hrothgor circled it carefully. The metal was twisted and broken, but he could sense life inside. Not Valeth life, not any kind of life he knew. This was something new and strange. With one careful claw, the dragon tore open the pod's side. Inside, wrapped in a protective cocoon, was a tiny human baby. The child was sleeping peacefully despite the violent crash. His small chest rose and fell with steady breaths. Hrothgor had never seen a human before, but he knew what they were. The Valeth kept records of all the species in the galaxy. Humans were young and weak, the dragons believed. They had only just learned to travel between stars when the Dominion attacked their worlds. The baby opened his eyes and looked up at the enormous dragon. Instead of crying in fear, the child reached out his tiny hand toward Hrothgor's massive snout. The dragon felt something he had never experienced before. A connection, a bond forming between two very different beings. "What have we here?" Hrothgor rumbled in his deep voice. The dragon gently picked up the baby and flew back to his cave. Other Valeth lived in the mountains nearby, and news of the strange discovery spread quickly. Soon a council of elder dragons gathered to decide what to do with the human child. Veltana was the first to speak against keeping the baby. She was younger than Hrothgor, but still ancient by human standards. Her silver scales caught the firelight as she moved restlessly around the cave. "Humans are weak," she said. "They die quickly and learn slowly. This creature will be nothing but trouble. We should leave it for the mountain beasts to find," old Kithara disagreed. The blue-scaled technomancer had studied human records captured from Dominion ships. "Their bodies may be weak, but their minds are different from ours. They adapt and change in ways we cannot." "Adapt to what?" Veltana snorted. "To being food for real predators." Hrothgor held the sleeping baby carefully in his great claws. The child seemed so fragile, yet something about him felt important. The ancient dragon had learned to trust his instincts over the long centuries of his life. "Look at him," Hrothgor said quietly. "He crashed in a metal shell traveling faster than anything we Valeth have ever built. He survived forces that would crush most beings, and when he saw me, he did not fear. He reached out. The other dragons moved closer to examine the baby. Even sleeping, the child seemed to radiate a strange energy. His breathing had synchronized with the rhythm of the cave's ancient crystals that powered Valeth technology. "The humans are losing their war with the Dominion," Kithara said. "Their worlds burn while we hide in our mountains. Perhaps this one is meant for something greater." Veltana laughed harshly. "You speak like the old prophecies, Kithara. Next you will tell us this baby will save the galaxy." "Stranger things have happened," the technomancer replied calmly. For 3 days the dragons argued. Some wanted to send the baby away to human space if any humans still lived free. Others wanted to study him like a curious specimen. A few suggested raising him as they would a Valeth hatchling. Hrothgor listened to all the arguments, but his decision was already made. Something deep in his ancient heart told him this human child was special. The way the baby's life energy resonated with Valeth crystals was unlike anything in their records. On the 4th day, Hrothgor announced his choice. "I will raise the human as my own," the ancient dragon declared. "If he proves weak and useless, the fault will be mine alone. But if he becomes something more than what we expect, the galaxy may thank us." Veltana shook her great head. "You are making a mistake, old friend. Humans and dragons are too different. You cannot teach him our ways." Then I will learn his ways too, Rathgor replied. The ancient dragon named the baby Kong Minho, combining sounds from both human and Valath languages. Minho for the human tradition of names, Kong because it reminded Rathgor of the sound crystal formations made when they sang together. As months passed, baby Minho grew stronger and more curious. He learned to crawl among the crystal formations that powered Valath technology. Somehow, the crystals glowed brighter when he touched them. Rathgor began to wonder if Kithara had been right about human potential. The baby started walking earlier than human records suggested was normal. He climbed the steep cave walls with surprising skill for such a young creature. Most amazing of all, he seemed to understand the harmonic frequencies the Valath used to communicate with their technology. When Minho was 2 years old, he accidentally activated an ancient Valath healing crystal just by placing his small hand on its surface. The dragons watching gasped in amazement. Even young Valath needed years of training to interface with their biotechnology. Veltana began visiting more often, her skepticism slowly changing to fascination. She started teaching Minho basic combat movements, claiming it was only to keep him from hurting himself as he climbed around the caves. By his 5th birthday, Minho could speak both human standard and the harmonic language of the Valath. He understood concepts that puzzled much older beings. His questions about how things worked often led to discoveries that amazed even the ancient dragons. The boy grew tall and strong, his human adaptability enhanced by breathing the energy-rich air of Drakmor. His reflexes became faster than any normal human, his senses sharper. But more important than his physical growth was the way his mind developed. Minho thought like a human but understood the world like a Valath. He combined logic and instinct in ways that surprised his dragon teachers every day. When presented with problems, he found solutions that the ancient beings had never considered. As the years passed, distant signals reached Drakmor from human space. The war with the Dominion was going badly. Earth itself was under siege. The dragons listened to the desperate transmissions and wondered if they had made the right choice in keeping the human boy. Rathgor looked at 16-year-old Minho practicing combat forms in the crystal caves and felt a mixture of pride and worry. The boy had become everything the ancient dragon had hoped and more. But soon, very soon, the galaxy would test whether a human raised by dragons could make a difference. In an impossible war, the first test would come sooner than any of them expected. The alarm crystals in the mountain caves screamed with urgent light. Minho dropped his practice sword and ran toward the sound, his enhanced reflexes carrying him faster than any normal human could move. At 16 years old, he had grown tall and lean, his muscles shaped by years of dragon training. Rathgor met him at the cave entrance, his golden eyes filled with concern. "A human ship approaches," the ancient dragon said. "It is badly damaged and falling fast." Minho felt his heart race. In all his years on Drakmor, he had never seen another human. The dragons had taught him about his species from their records, but those were just data and images. Now, a real human was coming to his world. Together, Minho and Rathgor flew toward the crash site. The boy rode on the dragon's back, something that had taken years of practice to master. The wind whipped through his dark hair as they soared over the crystal formations that dotted the mountain landscape. They found the ship buried nose first in a valley between two peaks. Smoke poured from its engines, and sparks flew from broken systems. Minho jumped down from Rathgor's back before the dragon had fully landed. "Careful, young one," Rathgor warned. "We do not know if this human is friend or enemy." Minho approached the ship cautiously. His enhanced senses, developed through years of living with dragons, told him someone was still alive inside. He could hear a heartbeat, weak but steady. The scent of human blood mixed with the smell of burning metal. Using strength that surprised even himself, Minho tore open the ship's damaged airlock. Inside, he found a woman in a blue military uniform. She was unconscious, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Her name tag read Captain Park Soman. "She needs help," Minho called to Rathgor. "Can we move her to the healing caves?" The dragon nodded and carefully lifted the injured pilot in his claws. As they flew back to the mountain, Minho studied the woman's face. She looked so much like him, yet so different. Her skin was paler from living in spaceships, and her body seemed fragile compared to his own dragon-enhanced form in the healing caves. Kithara worked her biotechnology magic on the injured pilot. The blue-scaled technomancer used crystal formations to mend broken bones and heal damaged organs. Minho watched in fascination as human and Valeth medicine combined to save a life. Captain Soman woke 3 days later. Her eyes opened slowly, then widened in shock when she saw Minho sitting beside her healing pod. "You're human," she whispered in standard language. "Yes," Minho replied, though the word felt strange on his tongue. He had never thought of himself as just human before. "I am Kong Minho. The Valeth found me as a baby." Soman tried to sit up, then winced as her healing ribs protested. "Valeth, you mean the dragons? I thought they were myths." "Very real," Minho said with a slight smile, "and very wise. How did you find this world?" The pilot's expression grew grim. "I was running from a Dominion patrol. My ship's navigation system was damaged, and I jumped blind through hyperspace. Lucky for me, I guess." Over the next few days, Captain Soman told Minho about the war raging across the galaxy. The Dominion had conquered most of human space. Earth itself was under siege, protected only by Admiral Yung Taeyun's last desperate fleet. Billions of humans had died or been enslaved. "We're losing," Soman said bluntly. "The Dominion ships are too fast, their weapons too powerful. They can control minds, turn our own people against us. We have maybe 6 months before Earth falls." Minho felt a strange emotion he had never experienced before. Anger, but deeper than that. A burning need to protect people he had never met but somehow belonged to. His dragon family had given him strength and wisdom, but these were his genetic people dying in space. "Show me," he said. Soman looked confused. "Show you what?" "Show me how they fight. Show me their ships and weapons. I want to understand the enemy working together." Minho and Kithara repaired Soman's ship using a combination of human engineering and Valeth biotechnology. The result was something neither species had ever seen before. The ship's systems responded to Minho's touch, the same way Valeth crystals did, as if he could speak directly to the machine's electronic brain. "That's impossible," Soman breathed as she watched Minho interface with the ship's computer using only his hands. "Humans can't do that. I am not just human," Minho replied. "I am something new." Veltana had been training Minho in combat since he was old enough to hold a weapon. Now the silver dragon watched as he demonstrated skills that amazed even her. He moved like water flowing around obstacles, struck like lightning, and thought 3 moves ahead of any opponent. "Your reflexes are faster than a Valeth warrior," Veltana admitted. "Your strategy mind works in ways we never taught you." "Where did you learn to fight like this?" "From watching you," Minho said, "but also from something inside me." "Something?" "That tells me how humans think in battle." When a Dominion scouting ship entered the Drakmor system 2 weeks later, Minho asked for permission to face it alone. The dragons were reluctant, but Captain Soman supported him. "If he's really what I think he is," she told Rathgor, "then humanity needs to know. We need hope." Minho flew Soman's modified ship toward the enemy vessel. The Dominion scout was 3 times larger than his ship and armed with weapons that could destroy a small moon. But as the enemy opened fire, something extraordinary happened. Minho didn't just dodge the incoming energy beams. He seemed to know where they would be before they fired. His ship moved through the deadly light show like it was dancing to music only he could hear. The Dominion ship tried to use its mind control weapons on him. These devices had turned countless human pilots into slaves of the alien empire. But when the control beams hit Minho, they simply passed through him like he wasn't there. "Impossible," the Dominion captain transmitted. "What are you?" "I am humanity's answer," Minho replied as he guided his ship directly at the enemy vessel. What happened next shocked everyone watching from Drakmor's surface. Instead of crashing into the Dominion ship, Minho's vessel seemed to merge with it. The enemy ship's weapons turned inward, tearing it apart from the inside. In less than 5 minutes, the mighty warship was nothing but floating debris. Minho's ship emerged from the wreckage completely undamaged. He had somehow taken control of the enemy vessel's own systems and used them as weapons. No human or Valeth had ever accomplished such a feat. When he returned to the mountain caves, Minho found the dragons and Captain Soman waiting for him with expressions of awe and concern. "How did you do that?" Soman asked. "I listened to the ship's electronic mind," Minho explained. "All technology has a voice if you know how to hear it. The Valeth taught me to hear crystal songs. Human machines sing too, just in different frequencies." Hrothgar placed a gentle claw on Minho's shoulder. "You have become something we never imagined, young one. The question now is what you will do with such power." Minho looked at Captain Soman, then at his dragon family. "I want to see my birth people's world. I want to help them fight. But I also want to protect my home here." "The war is spreading," Soman said quietly. "Soon nowhere will be safe. If you can really do what I just saw, you might be our only chance." That night, Minho stood on the highest peak of the mountain looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were dying while their enemies grew stronger. Here on Drakmor, dragons who had raised him as their own watched the galaxy burn. He was no longer just the human boy found in a crashed pod. He was not quite a dragon despite years of their training. He was something entirely new, a bridge between two species that might be exactly what the universe needed. But first, he had to decide which world to save when the real war came to find him. Dr. Han Nari emerged from the deep archives of the Valeth Library like a ghost from the past. The human woman had been hiding in the crystal caves for over 3 years, studying ancient records while the galaxy burned around her. Her hair had grown long and wild, and her clothes were patched with dragon silk fabric. Minho stared at her in shock. Captain Soman gasped and reached for her sidearm before realizing the stranger was human. "Another survivor," Soman whispered. Dr. Han looked at Minho with eyes that seemed to see through him to his very soul. "You are not just any survivor," she said in a voice rough from years of silence. "You are Project Genesis, the first and only success." "What are you talking about?" Minho demanded. His enhanced senses told him the woman was afraid, but not of him. She was afraid of what she knew. "Sit down, boy," Dr. Han said. "Both of you. There are things about your birth that even the dragons do not know." Hrothgar had been listening from the cave entrance. Now the ancient dragon moved closer, his golden eyes fixed on the human scientist. "Speak your truth, small one. But know that lies will not be tolerated here." Dr. Han pulled out a small datapad that glowed with Valeth biolight. "Before the war began, human scientists knew we were not alone in the galaxy. We had detected other species, including the Valeth. Some of us believed that humanity's survival would depend on becoming more than just human." She touched the pad and holographic images filled the cave. Minho saw pictures of laboratories, genetic charts, and most shocking of all, images of his parents. "Project Genesis was designed to create human-alien hybrids," Dr. Han continued. "Your parents, Dr. Kang Dong-yoon and Dr. Lee Minji, volunteered to have their genetic material enhanced with compatible alien DNA." Minho felt the world spinning around him. "You mean I was created in a laboratory?" "Not created," Dr. Han said gently. "Enhanced. Your parents loved each other and wanted a child. But they also wanted that child to have the best chance of survival in a dangerous universe." The hologram showed complex genetic sequences, mixing human DNA with something else. Something that looked remarkably similar to Valeth genetic patterns. "How is this possible?" Hrothgar rumbled. "We never shared our biological secrets with humans." "You did not need to," Dr. Han replied. "We found ancient Valeth artifacts on the edge of human space. Fragments of ships, pieces of technology. Our scientists reverse-engineered genetic samples from them." Cathara had joined them now, her blue scales shimmering with excitement. "You used our ancestors' DNA to enhance human genetics. Fascinating and terrifying." 17 couples participated in the project, Dr. Han continued. 16 children died before birth. The genetic combinations were too unstable. Only one survived. Only Minho. Captain Soman looked sick. You experimented on unborn children. We were trying to save our species, Dr. Han said firmly. And we were right to try. Look at him now. Look at what he can do. Minho stood up suddenly, his hands clenched into fists. Energy crackled around his fingers, making the cave crystals sing in harmonious response. So my entire life is a lie. I am not special. I am just a laboratory experiment that worked. No, Rothgor said firmly. You are my son in every way that matters. Your genetics may be artificial, but your heart and soul are real. But Minho was not listening. Rage filled him like fire in his veins. The cave crystals began to glow brighter, responding to his emotional state. Small rocks started floating in the air around him. Minho, calm yourself, Veltana warned as she entered the cave. You are losing control. Control, Minho laughed bitterly. I never had control. My parents designed me. The dragons shaped me. Everyone decided what I should become except me. The floating rocks began spinning faster. Energy discharges jumped. Between the cave walls, Dr. Han backed away in fear as the boy she had helped create began to manifest powers that terrified even her. This is why the project was classified, she whispered. We knew the children would be powerful. We just did not know how powerful. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the mountain. The detection crystals were screaming warnings. Captain Soman checked her communicator and turned pale. Dominion fleet incoming, she announced. At least 20 ships. They have found us. Minho's rage instantly focused on this new threat. The floating rocks dropped to the cave floor as he regained control of himself. How did they track us here? Your ship, Dr. Han said quietly. When Captain Soman crashed here, her vessel carried a Dominion tracking beacon. I tried to warn the dragons, but they were busy helping her recover. You knew, Soman said in horror. You knew they would follow me here. I hoped the Valeth technology would mask the signal, Dr. Han replied. I was wrong. Through the cave entrance, they could see enemy ships descending through Drakmore's atmosphere like falling stars. Each vessel was the size of a mountain, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. We cannot fight them all, Veltana said. There are too many. Minho felt something stirring inside him, something deeper than the rage he had just experienced. The genetic enhancements his parents had given him were awakening fully for the first time. His vision expanded, showing him energy patterns and tactical possibilities that no normal mind could process. Maybe we cannot fight them all, he said quietly, but I can. Minho, no, Rothgor said. You are powerful, but you are not invincible. I am not just powerful, Minho replied. I am connected to every piece of technology on this world. The defense systems, the communication arrays, even their own ships once I get close enough. He walked to the cave entrance and looked up at the descending fleet. For the first time since learning the truth about his origins, Minho felt truly grateful for what his parents had given him. Dr. Han, does your datapad contain information about Dominion ship systems? Yes, but why do you need that? Because I'm going to have a conversation with their computers, Minho said. And computers always tell the truth when you know how to ask the right questions. The first Dominion ship landed in the valley below the mountain. Soldiers poured out of its cargo bays, their weapons charging with deadly energy. They expected to find a few hiding dragons and maybe some human refugees. Instead, they found Kang Minho walking calmly down the mountain path toward them. The hybrid boy moved with fluid grace, and the air around him shimmered with barely contained. Power, surrender, human, the Dominion commander broadcasted. You cannot escape. Minho smiled, and for the first time in his life, the expression was truly dangerous. I am not trying to escape, he called back. I am trying to have a conversation. The battle for Drakmore was about to begin, and both sides were about to learn exactly what a human raised by dragons could accomplish when he stopped holding back. The battle for Drakmore lasted 7 hours and changed everything. Minho walked into the valley where the first Dominion ship had landed. Enemy soldiers surrounded him, their weapons aimed at his heart. But when they pulled their triggers, something impossible happened. The energy beams curved around him like water flowing around a stone. "What is this sorcery?" the Dominion commander demanded through his suit's speaker. "Not sorcery," Minho replied calmly. "Just a better understanding of physics." He reached out with his enhanced senses and touched the electronic minds of the soldiers' weapons. One by one, their guns turned in their hands and began firing at each other. The Dominion troops watched in horror as their own equipment betrayed them. Dot above in the mountains, Hrothgor and the other dragons fought desperately against the remaining ships. Veltana's silver form darted between enemy vessels, her claws tearing through armor plating. But there were too many enemies, and even dragon strength had limits. That was when Minho demonstrated his true power, standing in the center of the valley. He closed his eyes and extended his consciousness into every piece of technology on Drakmor. The mountain's defense crystals sang in harmony with his mental touch. Ancient Valeth, systems that had slept for centuries awakened at his call. The Dominion ships suddenly found their own weapons turning against them. Navigation systems failed, sending vessels crashing into each other. Communications arrays broadcast feedback loops that deafened their crews. In minutes, the mighty invasion fleet became scattered. Wreckage, but victory came with a terrible price. As the last enemy ship fell burning from the sky, Minho collapsed to his knees. Blood ran from his nose and ears. Using so much power had nearly killed him. Worse, he had felt something dark touching his mind during the battle. Something that had been watching him through the Dominion's technology. Hrothgor landed beside him, the ancient dragon's scales scarred from battle. "You did well, my son, but at what cost?" "They know about me now," Minho whispered. "Whatever controls the Dominion, it saw what I can do. It will send more ships." 3 days later, Minho's prediction came true. A massive Dominion battle fleet emerged from hyperspace, led by General Zektar himself. This time, they came prepared for his abilities. Their ships carried no networked computers, no electronic systems he could subvert. "We cannot win this fight," Veltana admitted as they watched the enemy fleet approach. Elder Nimroth, oldest of all the Valeth, made the painful decision. "The mountain sanctuaries must be evacuated. Drakmor falls today." "No," Minho said firmly. "I will not let them destroy our home." "Sometimes, young one, we must retreat to fight another day," Hrothgor said gently, but Minho was already walking toward the landing pad where Captain Summon's repaired ship waited. "Then I will make sure there is another day to fight." The evacuation began immediately. Dragons who had lived in the crystal caves for centuries gathered their most precious belongings and prepared to flee. Dr. Han loaded her research data while Captain Soman plotted escape routes through hyperspace. As the last transport ships lifted off from Drakmor, General Zektar's fleet began its bombardment. Energy cannons that could melt mountains turned the beautiful crystal formations into pools of glowing slag. The caves where Minho had grown up disappeared in blasts of superheated plasma from the bridge of his fleeing ship. Minho watched his childhood home die. Hrothgor stood beside him, the ancient dragon's grief too deep for words. "They will pay for this," Minho said quietly. "Revenge will not bring back what we have lost," Hrothgor replied. "This is not about revenge," Minho said. "This is about justice." In the weeks that followed, something changed in Kong Minho, the playful boy who had climbed crystal caves was gone, replaced by a focused young man with eyes like winter storms. The dragons noticed it first. His laughter became rare. His smiles never quite reached his eyes, but his enemies noticed something else entirely. Dominion supply convoys began disappearing throughout the outer rim. Entire fleets would vanish overnight, leaving only empty space where mighty warships had been. The survivors who escaped these attacks told impossible stories of a single fighter craft that moved like it was alive. They called him the Dragon's Shadow. Minho had learned to use his abilities in new ways. Instead of trying to control entire fleets at once, he focused on individual ships. He would slip aboard using stealth technology improved with Valeth bioengineering, then turn the vessel's own systems against its crew. Dominion soldiers began to fear their own equipment. Weapons jammed at critical moments. Life support systems failed in the middle of battles. Navigation computers led ships into deadly asteroid fields. The enemy's technological superiority became their greatest weakness. "How does he do it?" General Zektar demanded of his science advisors. "Our ships are hardened against electronic warfare." "He does not attack our systems from outside," one scientist explained. "Somehow, he interfaces with them directly." "As if he can speak to the machines themselves?" "That is impossible. Machines do not think." "Perhaps this human has found a way to make them think." Zektar issued new orders. Old Dominion vessels would operate on purely mechanical systems when possible. Soldiers would carry projectile weapons instead of energy guns. The mighty galactic empire began regressing technologically just to fight one enhanced human. Meanwhile, Minho's reputation spread through both human and alien space. Resistance fighters who had given up hope began to believe again. Some called him a legend. Others thought he was a myth created by desperate rebels. Colonel Kim Hyeji led one of the last human marine units still fighting the Dominion. When her communication officer received a message from the Dragon's shadow, she thought it was a joke. "This is Minho," the transmission said. "I want to help your people escape the siege of Kepler Station. Prove you are who you claim to be." Hyeji replied. 30 minutes later, the Dominion ships surrounding Kepler Station began firing on each other. Their communication arrays broadcast opera music instead of military orders. In the confusion, Hyeji's Marines escaped to their waiting transports. "How many ships did you bring to create this diversion?" Hyeji asked when she met Minho at the rendezvous point. "Just one," he replied. But even as his legend grew, Minho felt the weight of isolation pressing down on him. The human refugees he saved looked at him with fear mixed with gratitude. They whispered that he was more dragon than human now. Some even said he was no longer entirely alive. Only Veltana understood what he was going through. The Silver Dragon had joined him in his war against the Dominion, becoming his partner in countless raids. "You are becoming something the galaxy has never seen," she told him as they prepared for another mission. "But do not lose yourself in the process." "Maybe losing myself is the only way to save everyone else," Minho replied. Their next target was a Dominion research facility where captured humans were being used for experiments. But as they approached the station, Minho felt that same dark presence he had sensed during the battle for Drakmor. Something vast and ancient was watching him through the Dominion's networks. Something that had been waiting for him to reveal his full capabilities. "We are walking into a trap," Veltana warned. "I know," Minho said. "But sometimes you have to spring the trap to catch the one who set it." The hunt was about to become a two-way pursuit, and Minho was no longer sure he was the predator. The Dominion research station hung in space like a metal cancer, its dark hull bristling with defensive weapons. Inside, according to intercepted transmissions, 300 human prisoners were being used for genetic experiments. They had been captured during the fall of the Centauri colonies. Minho studied the station from the cockpit of his modified fighter. Beside him, Valkyris checked her weapons one final time. The young Valeth warrior was the last of her kind still, fighting alongside him. All the other dragons had either died in battle or retreated to hidden sanctuaries. "The station's defenses are too strong for a direct assault," Valkyris said. "Even your abilities have limits." "I am not planning to attack the station," Minho replied. "I am planning to become part of it." He had learned new techniques since fleeing Drakmor. His consciousness could now inhabit electronic systems for short periods, experiencing reality as pure information. It was dangerous and exhausting, but it allowed him to infiltrate even the most secure facilities. As their ship approached the research station, Minho closed his eyes and let his mind flow into the station's communication array. Instantly, he was inside the facility's electronic nervous system, seeing through security cameras and hearing through audio pickups. The horrors he witnessed there would haunt him forever. Dominion scientists were injecting human prisoners with alien genetic material, trying to recreate the process that had created Minho. Most subjects died screaming. Those who survived were changed into things that were no longer recognizably human. They are trying to make more like me, Minho whispered, his physical body trembling with rage. Can you free the prisoners? Valkaris asked. I can do better than that, Minho replied. I can make sure this never happens again. What followed was not a rescue mission but an act of cosmic justice. Minho turned the station's own research equipment against its operators. Genetic modification chambers designed to torture humans instead processed the Dominion scientists who had built them. Security systems that had kept prisoners locked up now trapped their captors in less than an hour. The research station had become a tomb for every Dominion being aboard it. The human prisoners, weak but alive, were loaded onto automated escape pods that Minho programmed to reach friendly space, but as the rescue ships departed, Minho felt that dark presence again. This time, it spoke to him directly through the station's communication array. Impressive little hybrid, a voice like grinding metal said. You fight with the fury of dragons and the cunning of humans, but do you know what you truly face? Show yourself, Minho demanded. The station's main display screen flickered to life, showing an image that made even his enhanced heart skip a beat. It was a creature of pure darkness, composed of writhing shadow and hungry void. Its eyes were holes. In reality itself. I am the first of the void spawn, the entity said. Your people call me the Devourer. The Dominion serves me because they know what happens to civilizations that refuse. What do you want? Minho asked, though part of him already knew the answer. I want what I have always wanted. To consume all life, all light, all hope. Your galaxy burns so beautifully when organic beings despair, but you, little hybrid, you give them hope. That cannot be allowed. The image shifted, showing scenes of devastation. Across the galaxy, entire star systems reduced to empty darkness. Planets stripped of all life. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years erased as if they had never been. The Dominion fights you because they fear you will interfere with their true purpose, the Devourer continued. They are preparing your galaxy for harvest. Earth is to be the final fortress, where all remaining organic life will be gathered for easier consumption. Minho felt sick. You are using the Dominion to hurt us like animals. Precisely. And when the last refugee ship reaches Earth, when every surviving human and alien has been collected in one convenient location, I will feast upon the greatest concentration of life force this galaxy has ever seen. I will stop you, Minho said. The Devourer laughed, a sound like stars dying. You are a powerful hybrid child. But you are still just one being. I am eternal hunger itself. I have consumed 1,000 galaxies before yours. The communication cut off, leaving Minho alone with Valkaris in the emptied research station. The young dragon looked at her human partner with concern. You look like you have seen the end of the universe, she said. Maybe I have, Minho replied. We need to reach Earth. The real war is about to begin. The journey to human space took them through territories controlled by various factions. Some still fought the Dominion. Others had surrendered and become collaborators. A few had simply hidden, hoping the war would pass them by. Everywhere they went, Minho's reputation preceded him. Resistance fighters begged him to join their causes. Defeated populations looked to him as their savior. Dominion forces hunted him with increasing desperation. He helped when he could, but his focus remained fixed on Earth. If the Devourer was telling the truth, then every rescue mission and every small victory was ultimately meaningless. The enemy's true goal was to gather all organic life in one place for easier destruction. When they finally reached the Sol system, Minho was amazed by what he found. Earth had been transformed into the ultimate fortress world. Massive space stations orbited the planet like artificial moons. The asteroid belt had been converted into a defensive grid. Even the outer planets bristled with weapons designed to stop entire fleets. Admiral Yun Taeyun's flagship, the Indomitable, met them at the edge of the system. The old admiral looked tired but determined as he welcomed Minho aboard. So you are the Dragon's Shadow? Taeyun said. You look younger than I expected. I feel older than I should, Minho replied. The young often carry the heaviest burdens. Come, there are things you need to see. The admiral led Minho through the ship to a secure briefing room where President Choi Ming-yu was waiting via hologram. The leader of humanity's government in exile looked like he had aged a decade in the past year. Minho, the president said, we have been monitoring your activities. Impressive work, but we need to discuss the larger situation. I already know about the Devourer, Minho said, the real enemy behind the Dominion. Both leaders looked shocked. How could you possibly know that classified information? Admiral Taeyun demanded. Because it told me itself. The void spawn wants us to know we are being herded. Fear makes the harvest more satisfying. President Choi leaned forward. Then you understand why we have been gathering human refugees here at Earth? It was not just for protection. We are preparing for the final battle. A battle we cannot win with conventional weapons, Admiral Taeyun added. But perhaps with unconventional ones. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. You want to use me as a weapon. We want you to become the weapon you were designed to be, the president said. The Valeth archives that Dr. Han studied contained more than just genetic information. They contained records of an ancient defense system built into Earth's core by a previous civilization. A system that requires a specific type of consciousness to activate, the admiral continued. One that bridges organic and technological awareness. One like yours. Minho looked at Valkyries, who had been listening in silence. The dragon's expression was unreadable. What would happen to me? Minho asked. We do not know, the president admitted. The records are incomplete. But without it, every living being in the galaxy will die when the Devourer arrives. Outside the ship's windows, Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel. Somewhere on its surface were the caves where his genetic template had been stored, the laboratories where his parents had worked to create him. It was the world of his species, even if he had never set foot on it. When do the void spawn arrive? Minho asked. Our best estimates give us 6 months, Admiral Taeyun said, maybe less. Minho closed his eyes and reached out with his enhanced senses. He could feel the electronic pulse of every ship in the system, every satellite, every defense station. Millions of human refugees living in orbital habitats, all depending on him to save them, but he could also feel something else. A darkness at the edge of detection, moving through space toward them like a cosmic storm. The Devourer and its void. Spawn fleet, coming to end everything. Show me this ancient defense system, Minho said. If I'm going to save the galaxy, I need to understand what I am becoming. The ancient ruins lay 3 kilometers beneath Earth's surface, hidden below layers of rock and metal that had been accumulating for millions of years. Minho descended through shaft elevators that had been hastily built by human engineers working. Around the clock, Fleet Admiral Oh Sung-ho waited for him at the bottom, her uniform dusty from weeks of supervising the excavation. Behind her stretched a vast chamber carved from living crystal, its walls pulsing with patterns of light that seemed almost alive. We found it 6 months ago, Admiral Oh explained as they walked through the ruins. Deep scan satellites detected. Energy signatures that matched nothing in our databases. When we dug down to investigate, we found this. The chamber was enormous, easily large enough to house a battleship. But what dominated the space was not its size, but the massive crystalline structure at its center. It looked like a fusion of Valeth biotechnology and something far more ancient, a machine that thought and a brain that computed. The previous inhabitants called it the Nexus, Admiral O continued. According to the records we have translated, it was built to defend against entities from what they called the Hungry Dark. Minho approached the crystal structure slowly. His enhanced senses could feel power radiating from it like heat from a star. But there was something else, something that made his genetic modifications resonate in harmony with the ancient device. It was built for someone like me, he said quietly. Not just someone like you. A familiar voice said from behind them. Dr. Han Nari emerged from the shadows, her research equipment in hand. It was built for you specifically. That is impossible, Admiral O protested. This structure is millions of years old. Time works differently when you are dealing with entities like the Void Spawn, Dr. Han explained. The beings who built this could see possible futures. They knew that one day another species would face the same threat they did. She activated a holographic display that showed complex genetic patterns. The modifications your parents gave? You were not random. They were based on genetic templates hidden in the Valeth artifacts we found. Templates that were designed to be compatible with this system. Minho stared at the swirling lights within the crystal structure. You mean my entire existence was planned by aliens who died before humanity even evolved? Plan might be too strong a word, Dr. Han said. Prepared for, perhaps. They created the possibility. Your parents made it reality. Velcaris had been silent throughout the tour, but now the dragon spoke. What happened to the beings who built this place? They succeeded in stopping the void. Spawn, Admiral O replied, but the cost was total. They had to sacrifice their entire consciousness to power the defense system. Every member of their species became part of the Nexus. And you want Minho to do the same thing, Velcaris said, her voice filled with protective anger. We want him to try to find another way, Admiral O said. But if there is no other option, then yes, one life to save billions. Alarms began wailing throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathed the crystal chamber in red illumination as Admiral O received an urgent communication. They are here, she announced grimly. Long-range sensors detect the Void Spawn fleet entering the outer system. Estimated arrival at Earth in 72 hours. Through the facility's communication systems, Minho could hear the chaos erupting across human space. Defense fleets were moving to intercept positions. Civilian populations were being evacuated to the most heavily protected stations. Everyone knew this would be the final battle, but as the hours passed, it became clear that conventional weapons were useless against the Void Spawn. The creatures from the hungry dark simply absorbed energy attacks, growing stronger with each blast. Physical projectiles passed through them as if they were made of shadow. Minho watched the battles from the Nexus chamber, his consciousness linked to Earth's communication networks. He saw brave human pilots die as their ships were drained of all power. He watched entire space stations go dark as the Void Spawn fed on their energy cores. Admiral Tayan's fleet has been destroyed, Admiral O reported. The outer defense grid is failing. We have maybe 6 hours before they reach Earth itself. Then it is time, Minho said. He approached the Nexus and placed his hands on its crystal surface. Immediately, he felt the consciousness of the ancient builders flowing into his mind. They had been waiting for millions of years for someone who could carry on their work, but instead of simply replacing them, Minho found a different path. His unique nature, part human and part Valeth, allowed him to interface with the system without losing himself completely. He became a bridge between organic consciousness and technological power. Energy flowed through him like lightning through copper wire. His awareness expanded beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, reaching out to touch every piece of technology in the galaxy. He could feel Dominion ships, Valeth archives, human colonies, and something else. The Devourer was vast and ancient, but it was not invincible. Like all living things, it had patterns, weaknesses, points where focused pressure could create catastrophic failure. I can see it now, Minho whispered, his voice echoing through both the crystal chamber and every communication device in human space. The Void Spawn are not just energy vampires. They are a form of cosmic infection, spreading from galaxy to galaxy by corrupting the technology they encounter. Through the Nexus, he reached out and touched the consciousness of Rathgor. His dragon father had been hiding in the deep archives of a Valeth sanctuary, but now his ancient wisdom flowed through the network to support his adopted son. You do not have to do this alone, young one, Rathgor's voice said. Let us help you carry the burden. One by one, other voices joined the network. Velcaris linked her warrior spirit to the defense grid. Dr. Han contributed her scientific knowledge. Even Captain Soman, flying with the last desperate squadron of human fighters, added her pilot's instincts to the collective effort. The void spawn reached Earth's orbit just as Minho completed his transformation. He was no longer entirely human, no longer entirely individual. He had become a living network connecting every free consciousness in the galaxy. The battle that followed was fought on levels that defied normal understanding. While human and Dominion ships engaged the void spawn in conventional space, Minho fought the Devourer in the realm of pure information and energy. The ancient entity was shocked to encounter resistance on its own level. For the first time in eons, it faced an opponent that could match its fundamental nature while retaining the unpredictability of organic thought. Impossible, the Devourer raged as Minho turned its own corrupted technology against it. You're just one small being. I am not one being, Minho replied, his voice carrying the harmonized thoughts of millions. I am the sum of everyone who chooses to fight rather than surrender. I am what happens when different species stop seeing their differences as weaknesses. The battle raged for hours that felt like eternities. But gradually, the combined will of organic life began to overcome the void spawn's hunger. Their shadow ships began to dissolve as the corruption that powered them was cleansed by the Nexus network. When the Devourer finally retreated into the dark between galaxies, it left behind a changed universe. The Dominion, freed from its influence, began negotiating peace with human forces. Valeth emerged from hiding to help rebuild worlds that had been damaged by war, and at the center of it all was Minho. No longer fully human, but not quite machine either. He had become something new, a guardian consciousness that watched over the galaxy's electronic networks, ensuring that no future corruption could take root. Are you still you? Valkyris asked when she visited the Nexus chamber weeks after the victory. I am more me than I have ever been, Minho replied, his voice coming from the crystal structure itself. But I'm also more than just me. I carry pieces of everyone who helped in the fight. He could feel Rothgoreth's wisdom, Dr. Han's curiosity, Admiral O's determination, and thousands of other spirits that had become part of the network. He was lonely but never alone. Through sensors across the galaxy, Minho watched as former enemies worked together to repair the damage caused by the war. Human refugees returned to rebuilt colonies. Valeth shared their biotechnology freely. Even former Dominion worlds joined the growing alliance of species. Did we win? Captain Soman asked during one of her visits to Earth. We survived, Minho answered. And sometimes that is the greatest victory of all. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. No single species, no matter how advanced, could face the universe's greatest threats alone. But together, combining their strengths and compensating for each other's weaknesses, they could overcome any darkness. Minho continued to watch and guard, a bridge between organic life and the technology that served it. He was Earth's final weapon, but more importantly, he had become something the galaxy had never seen before. He was hope made manifest in crystal and light, ensuring that the hungry dark would never again find the universe undefended.